Hey folks, Matt McQueenie, Mix Minus Podcast. It is August 5th, 2017, 2 p.m. on a Saturday. Though you will be listening to this at some other point, because there's no way to consume this live right now. It's all on demand. This might even be edited. But we are into what many would consider the dog days, the second half of summer, and August can make you feel a little melancholy. But I've learned to not feel melancholy about it because football's coming, because my second vacation of summer's coming. Each year, July is sort of my choice vacation, whether it's with my family or frequently the last couple of years it's been Vermont, so it's my choice. The August vacation is my wife's choice, and every year it is Wildwood Crest. We go down to a place called the Port Royal. It's fantastic. I love it. I get a lot of content done. I get a lot of boogie boarding done, and I get a lot of early bird eating and drinking done, and I love it. And I don't even mind at the end of the night, which in early bird terms is very early. You know, the end of your night is basically 7 p.m. I will get into the hotel room with my son, who will go to sleep in his crib that we rent, and I will just go into La La Land and watch whatever I'm watching, Netflix, binge, whatever it is. I got a lot of binging to do on these Avenger series. I got through Daredevil 2 seasons. I was in that right from the beginning. Jessica Jones, I got through season 1. I still have to get through Luke Cage, and I still have to get through the Iron Fist, although the Iron Fist I've heard is just absolutely horrendous, whether it's the fight scenes, the acting, or whatever. But I think you have to watch it because the Avengers, which has all 4 people, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, will be coming out very shortly, I believe. And I don't know whether you can watch it if you have not seen the Break-Off series, the Focus series on each character. But I did enjoy those others, and I've always said I'm not a comic book person, but all of a sudden television has made us comic book people because of things like The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead. I've heard good things about The Preacher, though I have not watched that. And those are comics, and then all of a sudden you watch these shows that are Netflix originals, which I was very interested in seeing because I love seeing new content platforms burgeon and take on lives of their own and personalities of their own. When you think of the fact that Netflix was just a service for sending DVDs by mail of movies and TV shows. And I remember, 6-7 years ago when it started having the streaming capacity. And I remember having it in a DVD player, and it was horrendous because the DVD player was meant for DVDs. And then they said, oh, this Netflix is in here. And I remember it was terrible. But over the years, it's taken over, and really the streaming aspect is everything for Netflix, and there's a real de-emphasis of the outside content. I mean, I think Netflix, the binging aspect was really taken over with Breaking Bad, Mad Men, a lot of shows on that platform that people would binge and catch up with. I've done a lot with Walking Dead, even up till now, but it's really taken on a life of its own as a content producer. And it's almost at the point where it's dominant. It's like the Yankees, the early 2000 Yankees of content producers. It's just buying everything. It's taken over stand-up. It's paying exorbitant amounts to comedians to do stand-up specials. It's really taken the mantle from HBO. It's just greenlighting almost every TV show imaginable. It's at the point where you open up your Netflix queue and there's nothing there except Netflix originals. And I can't even keep up, and I don't even know what to watch anymore. And then you take into consideration, which I just started watching the other night on Hulu. Hulu's got originals. Everyone's got originals. Amazon's got originals. They're just coming out every which way you can imagine. Apple's getting originals, and they're going to be kind of entertainment, music-based. Or there's one show called Planet of the Apps, I think. And there's just, everybody's got content. Everyone's got original stuff that they're releasing, and it's almost impossible to keep up. And the sheer amount of stuff out there makes you not really want to watch anything. It's very difficult each night to decide what to watch. My wife and I what we'll do is we will latch onto a series, and whether it's the season, it's usually season based, but we will just kind of focus on that. We'll be monogamous with that series for the period of time to get through that season, whether it's 10, 12, usually 10 or 12 episodes, maybe 13 sometimes. And we'll just watch that each night when we finish dinner, and we pretty much get one episode through, and then we'll head upstairs and watch something that's a little lighter fare. Whether it's, we've been watching the Amazon Hard Knocks show, which is called All or Nothing, and it's we all know on HBO Hard Knocks, which follows an NBA or NFL team in the preseason for 4 or 5 weeks. It's a great show, but the All or Nothing is an in-season version of the show that has about 8 episodes. The first season was the Arizona Cardinals, great series, and then this season we're watching now was last year's Los Angeles Rams, which is good. My wife's into that, which is a plus for me, but we will sit and we'll watch that. And actually, watching that show, I'll tell you, Jeff Fisher does not come off very well. He comes off as really a phony, somebody who's not that invested, but does a lot of fake. Whenever I hear the cursing on these in these NFL locker rooms, I'm thinking to myself, this to me makes me feel like these older coaches are trying to cover up for a lack of something. The cursing just doesn't feel like it's necessary. And I don't know if the camera's doing this on purpose, but it'll go around the room, and when they're cursing like crazy and you're seeing some of these football players who can be pretty smart guys in their own right, but they're almost looking at it like, this isn't affecting me, this cursing. I'm just kind of looking on blankly. I'm focusing on my own thing. I'm visualizing my own world. And these guys are just going off the rails. Greg Williams, he comes across awful. In every one of these shows, and maybe this is the point in the shows, they find the one person who you're just like, oh, you cringe at. I remember in one season of Hard Knocks, it was Mike Tice. And in this season, it is Greg Williams. He comes across terribly. I feel like I'm watching a mockumentary of a coach taking on the team. This is, of course, the defensive coordinator who was the progenitor of Bountygate. I mean, it can go right up to the head of the team when you're thinking of Sean Payton, but Greg Williams was the one who was very much involved with that, and I believe lost a season of his career because of that, where they were paying players to actually hurt the opposition. Football is tough enough, but when you think about hurting somebody to try to get them out of the game, to knock them out, it's a terrible thing. And this guy in this show, a lot of these coaches, they just come across really badly. Everybody really in sports would want to be at that apex of the profession, to be working in professional football, to work in the NFL, to even work in college. But there are times where I'm watching it and I go, as much as I like this, I could not imagine being devoted to this every single day. Day in and day out, night in and night out. You're never going home. You're just watching film. They show the one scene where Greg Williams is watching film, and then when he's done at like 2 a.m, he just rolls out the cot and goes to bed there. It's just absolutely, it's overwhelming. And you almost need to go to those levels, because if you try to pull back and you try to live a more normal life, that only works if you're winning. That only works if you're the New England Patriots. It only works if you're a team who every year gets 12 wins or 10 wins, who always goes to the playoffs. But even the Patriots don't do that. These people make this all encompassing. Everything is about the team. Everything is about that next Sunday. Families are to the side. Football comes first. And there was always the thing with Tony Dungy where he would let people go home. And I guess it can work. I mean, if Peyton Manning's your quarterback, that works a lot. But it's very difficult from that point. You want to be in sports, you love sports, but if you're in it, you're so overwhelmed by it that you're looking for something else. That's really the difficulty sometimes of being human, is that the things we love, we overwhelm ourselves with, we get addicted to, and we go so hard into it that we need a break from it. So I think it's sometimes hard to find a diversified life where you can kind of pick and choose your loves and try to moderate your use of all of them. But football does come across that. But anyway, my wife and I will watch that show. And it's neat to go behind the scenes. I mean, the cinematography on those shows are just out of this world. I love seeing the scenes where the people are at home, the players, the coaches are at home, or you see them on the road, you see the meetings, you're in the team meetings. It's a really fun show to watch. And the Tampa Bay Bucks will be this year's Hard Knocks, so that will be coming up on HBO. But with the original programming on all these places, you just don't even know what to watch anymore. And it loses the aspect of being able to talk about these things, which is a lot of the point of watching entertainment, is that they always have the old thing, you can stand around the water cooler with the other workers at your job to talk about last night's episode of the big show. Really, we have Game of Thrones left for that. And that carries you. I mean, that's only 7 episodes this season, but that is an important thing. You got the Twitter aspect. Everyone's talking about it. You're getting spoiler alerts. But the next day, the original spoiler alert is that water cooler discussion. And there is none of that really with other things. I mean, I think that's why sports is important, because there's no on-demand with sports. I mean, if you're watching 30 for 30s, you're watching documentaries, sure. But the actual games, you have to watch them really in the live atmosphere. You got to watch the actual games, and then you talk about them. The conversation goes. That's why sports is so important still in the media. In the media landscape, because it's really the only thing that people are watching live anymore. There's really, everything's on demand, but when it's on demand, you're sort of personally watching this stuff. It's for you, and really that's it. And maybe your wife, if that's the one person you watch these shows with. But, you can finish a show and then you can go talk to a friend who maybe watched it 4 months ago, and he might remember some things, but not really. So the conversation is very disjointed. And I really think that's an important piece of all this. And I don't know how that gets fixed, really. Unless you do something like The Ringer has done, Bill Simmons' media company, The Ringer, they have this thing called binge mode, and I'm sure they'll do it with other shows, but they've done it right now with Game of Thrones, where 2 of their employees, I believe Mallory Rubin and Jason Concepcion, will do a podcast for every single episode of Game of Thrones. So they started it maybe 2 months ago, and they would release one season each week. And so you'd get season 1, which would drop at once, and you get season 2. And I think at least with that, you can kind of watch these things again, maybe, and always be able to go back to that. Or whenever you watch Game of Thrones, you can use that show as kind of a friend to the, or a complement to the show, where you can then go back and digest it with those people who are on demand in that episode. But yeah, we really lose a lot of it. So I have a hard time deciding actually what to watch. I mean, right now my wife and I are going through the most recent season of House of Cards. And it's been pretty good. House of Cards, the cinematography is great. The certain actors are so high level that you can't get around it, whether you're talking about Kevin Spacey, whether you're talking about Robin Wright, formerly Penn, whether you're talking about a lot of these actors in this show. I love the idea that Netflix is creating all of these jobs for these great actors, and they show up in these shows, and you almost feel good about that aspect, that amazing content and amazing quality and technical quality is coming across in a streaming platform. It's not even on network TV. It's not on cable TV. It's on this streaming platform. It's amazing. But we're watching that, and you're enjoying it, but you're not dying to see every episode. And so we'll finish that, and then we'll move on to our next thing. I saw that Mr. Robot season 2 is on Amazon Prime, that we could watch that now. I almost like to get to the point where shows are on these services, so I don't have to watch the commercials. I mean, that ends up being something that's so important. I had the Hulu. I had a discounted Hulu from American Express deals. They had a Hulu for $5.99 a month for like a year. So that's really good, because the base Hulu is $7.99 a month. And so that comes with ads. But I'll tell you what, even with the $5.99 a month, which I re-upped into that because I knew that there were certain shows we like to watch on that platform, if we're talking about a Designated Survivor, This Is Us, shows like that. But they've added, as I said, The Handmaid's Tale, which I watched. That's a crazy mindfuck of a show. Oh my goodness, is that a hard show to watch? I don't even know how to get into it, really. I'd recommend watching it, but you're going to feel terrible. It's sort of the way people talk about the Leftovers on HBO. How that's just, it's like a dystopian feeling. It rips apart your insides, but you feel the better for having watched it, because it gave you the chance to live out a horrible eventuality without actually having to live it out. It's kind of like virtual reality that way, but it's pretty good. But Hulu has that. It has Fear the Walking Dead, which I like, and it's got a handful of other. Fargo's on there exclusively. Fargo's a really good show. But I keep that because I want to watch those shows. And I always convince myself, all right, I'll clear these shows and then I'll unsubscribe from Hulu until the next round of shows or next round of seasons of the shows I like come back, and then I'll resubscribe. We never do that. We always just stay subscribed to a service. I mean, think about how many months in a row you're just paying for Netflix. Whereas if you really were shrewd about it, you might cut Netflix for 3 months and then pick it up for a month and then binge out everything you want to watch. Then cancel your subscription for however many months and then pick it up. We would save so much more money if we did it this way. Imagine doing 5 months off, 1 month on. All of a sudden, where right now we're paying like $120, $130 a year, we then might only pay $25 a year, and it would be much more efficient. But as humans, we don't really live that way. We like the idea of always having something there to pull up. But really, Netflix only works as a constantly subscribed to month by month thing if you're really using it every day. There's so much content there. And I probably use it the equivalent of, once a week, maybe. I mean, that doesn't add up. Although some would say $10 or $11 a month isn't that much for something to always be there. But it's funny when you think about subscribing. It's not like unsubscribing, you lose anything. It's not like if you unsubscribe, like health insurance, or if you drop health insurance and then you get sick and you want to get it back, it's a lot more expensive at that point. Whereas if you just held your insurance, you always have it in the background there. I mean, we really should be more shrewd about this stuff, even though on the flip side, if we were to cut those subscriptions, if everybody were to do this en masse, that would probably not work out very well for the bottom line of Netflix and its ability to fund all of this original content and the push for all this original content and comedy and dramas and movies and Adam Sandler and everything they have going. It wouldn't be there if they didn't have the certainty of all these people like zombies continuing to pay the $10 or $11 a month. So it's difficult. But I think on the margins, it would be smart to do that, right? To cut off, maybe do 2 months on, 2 months off, 1 month on, and then it might give us more of it might catalyze us more to watch the shows each night, knowing that we're going to then go and cancel it. I don't know. It's a hard thing, and I'm not going to figure it out now, but I will try on my vacation here to get through some different shows that I have. I did start The Handmaid's Tale the other night while my wife was out with her teacher friends at one of our local bar and restaurants here. That's really the chance where I can start things I wanted to. But of course, I checked in on Facebook that I was watching the show. And then at the end of the night, when she got home, she could see my check-in and she said, I thought we were watching that together. And I said, so then I'm sitting there going, oh, I don't think you'd like it. It's really dark. It's kind of a messed up show. It's not really something you'd like. I did that with Game of Thrones. Even though Game of Thrones is amazing, I don't think she'd like it, but that's good for me that she doesn't like it because then I can kind of watch it in real time. If she were watching it, it would be difficult to stay up with it all the time. And I need to stay up with it because it'll be spoiled in a second. And as I said, Game of Thrones is the one show you can't have spoiled. And a lot of it was spoiled for me early on because I read the books, right? So I knew the Red Wedding was coming. I knew all the little battles where the main characters were going to lose their heads or die. And so the books were kind of a spoiler, but also they were a nice guide to be able to stay up with all these characters. It's impossible to follow this show at the highest levels if you don't have background on it. It's nearly impossible. But yeah, so I started The Handmaid's Tale. The Handmaid's Tale is dark. It's from an old book by, I think, Margaret Atwood is her name. And really what the premise is, and I don't know if the book was more modern day or whatever, but the show feels modern. And it stars Elizabeth Moss, who is Peggy Olson in Mad Men. And she, of course, was really good in that show, Top of the Lake. She's one of our tremendous actresses we have there today, really at the highest levels. And so she stars in this show where I guess it's kind of a near future, or maybe it's kind of now where infertility is really overtaking the land. It's taken over everything, and childbirths are going down, and not being able to be the population is not matching the population in is not matching the population out. And so those women that are left who do show a propensity to still be fertile turn into what are called handmaids or handmaidens. And they almost look like a cult. They're wearing these, they're almost wearing Amish getup, and they're pretty much assigned to certain men, whether they're commanders or in this new world order or whatever the case is. I'm only a couple episodes in, but there's sort of assigned to these men to just be on hand to procreate. And so there will be scenes where sex is taking part, and it couldn't be any more mundane or everyday. I mean, it's rape if you think about it. The fact that these women are fertile, it's really the worst case you could possibly be for them. So I have not seen what happens with the other women. It sounds like there's colonies you go to if you're infertile, and I'm guessing those colonies are places where you go to die. But these women live, it's a living hell, and they all kind of hang with each other and go from place to place, and it's a very strange, almost North Korean cultish society, dictatorial, and man, is it dark, because the flashbacks in this show, which they have these little flashbacks that they'll kick to, it goes right back to a world which was only a couple years before these scenes we're seeing where they're the handmaidens. It's a world where it looks just like our world, and you can kind of see the way mass hysteria turns into this place where they're trying to husband the resources that are left, these women who have the ability to still be fertile, and it turns into this really messed up dictatorial law to the highest levels world. And then there's even this scene where I guess a man who's caught maybe raping, who's not one of these higher up men who's able to be a procreator. And then you're thinking to yourself, did this person actually rape, or did they just pull him out here? Because what they do is they're sentenced to basically be beaten to death and kicked to death and whatever to death you can imagine by the handmaidens. So they give this sort of escape hatch. They give this ability for these women who are living such this awful existence, the quote unquote chosen ones, to take out all of their seething rage that's beneath, that they have to hold down to keep living in this society. They're able to take it out on these men, and you wonder, and I guess we'll find out later, you wonder if the man has really done what he's been accused of doing, or it's just there to be a way for the women to get the steam out of this horrible existence. But the show is just crazy. It's dark. You just feel queasy watching it. But it's one of these shows I think that's important to watch, because it's important to get these queasy feelings from media, because I'd rather get it from fiction than from real world, right? You'd rather come face to face with these realities, quote unquote realities, in fiction and entertainment form, because it gives you the chance in your mind to account what would happen in this case. Where would I be? Who would I align with? Where would my interest lay? And how would I maintain the individuality that I have now in a society like this? It's fascinating to do that. And sometimes you need media to push you into these uncomfortable places so that you can kind of deal with it in a fictional way and come to terms with what you might be in that world. So I would kind of recommend it. It's a good show, but it's dark. It's very well acted. The music is crazy. The world is crazy. Again, very dystopian, very, very dark, but yet very sterile. And the sex scenes are sterile, but there's crying and it's sadness, and it's just absolutely, I don't know. So I'll probably clear through that on the vacation. But anyway, back to the Hulu thing. I ended up just saying enough with this. I can't take the commercials, and I upped to the $11.99 per month, which gives you the shows on Hulu without any commercials. So that was something that was a worthwhile thing for me to do. And I'm going to really commit to this idea. Since I'm up to the $11.99, I'm going to clear through all these shows I want to watch, and then I'm going to cancel Hulu, and then I'll come back to it at a later time where I want to watch it. But really, if you think about it, we really as consumers should do this. We should only be paying $10 to $15 a month for this side over-the-top media, right? This streaming media. And just decide which one you want to do on a monthly basis, because for that $15, for that $10, you're pretty much going to be able to subscribe to one service. So with Amazon, we all get it anyway because we're Amazon Prime members, so that's in the bag. We always have that. But really decide month to month, do I want Hulu? And you could go with the Hulu Plus with no ads, or do I want Netflix? And then it might give us more of a spur to watch those things on a more regular basis if we know that our month is coming up and we're going to move to the next one. So I will try to do that. Another streaming media is obviously music. I have talked on this show time and again about how Google Music All Access is my bread and butter. It is my service that I love. It's the thing that is the moat around which no other services can come up against. Why? Because it allows you to take your existing library of songs that you might have on your hard drive, all of those CDs I have in my closet over here, these 5,000 songs, and divided by 10 is probably 500 or 600 CDs I have in there that I curated, that I aggregated through my life from when I remember when I was in middle school, and every single day I would come home to my home in Mawa, and my dad in his second floor bedroom, he had this big glass bowl that had all the coins in an era when we would actually have coins, right now everything is credit cards, it's digital, it's Apple Pay, it's whatever. We don't use cash very often, but in this world where cash was everything, you would always be left with a handful of coins every day in the pocket. He would take it out of his pocket, drop it into this glass bowl, and there was probably $100 to $200 worth of coins. Remember when they had that Coinstar thing and you could take those bowls of coins, drop them into Coinstar and get cash back, and then Coinstar would take maybe 7% off of the whole total, and so we'd all win because we'd get cash for all this coins. Well, what I would do, and it was amazing, back when I started really collecting CDs, probably 6th, 7th grade, maybe 8th grade, I would come home, I would go up to that coin bowl, and I would get $15 worth of coins. I would get on a bike, and I would drive 2 miles on a pretty bad road to be driving a bike, Franklin Turnpike, up over Route 17 to this little CD store they had in Ramsey Interstate. And I would go there almost every day, and I would buy a CD. I remember buying Face to Face. I remember buying Operation Ivy. I would buy all these CDs. And it was amazing. I probably ended up with 50 CDs with $10 to $15 a pop in quarters. I would buy them all in quarters. And that bowl of coins never seemed to dissipate. It never seemed to show that the levels were coming down. That is the amazing point of leftover change, how much is left there. But back to those days where I think of the nostalgia of going in there and buying CD after CD. I don't want it all to die on the vine. I don't want it all to just sit in my closet, gathering dust, sitting in there in the dark by the water cooler and just not doing anything. I like the idea of my life of music being carried with me. And so Google Music allowed this. Google Music allowed you, just like iTunes did before it, where you could rip CDs onto your iTunes and then have them on your iPod. And then obviously the iTunes store with the 99-cent song with the $10 album, you could add to that. But I like all these CDs I have. And I love the idea of being able to shuffle all of your music over your lifetime, over these 25 years of accumulating music. I like shuffling that and being taken back to a nostalgic memory. And sometimes you forget who you liked in the past. It's hard to reaccumulate your CD or your music collection just off of memory. So Google Music allowed me to take all that music, drop it on the service, and have it there as part of the $7.99 a month. Now, most of these music services are $10 a month, but because I subscribed with Google Music when it initially came out, there was a kind of an early adopters discount. So it was $7.99 a month. So I thought that was great. I'm saving money. I got the better service. It's nice looking. I like that I'm not locked into somebody's walled garden, whether that's Apple. And Apple never had streaming at this point. Spotify was good, but again, $7.99. I believed in Google. I liked you could carry your whole catalog with you. It was good. They bought a service called Songza, which was mood-based music playlists. So that was great. Now everybody has that, obviously, but it was always maintaining ahead. It had integrations with something called YouTube Red. So it has this app, which is like a mixtape app for music that you could always have. So it just had a lot of value across the chain. Loved it. Always said, go for it, commit to it, whatever. And then I was getting a little fancy for something else. I wanted to try something else. And what often will lead to that kind of thought is seeing a deal. So on Twitter, I was seeing this deal around Amazon Prime Day, which was July 11th, maybe around there. And it was this deal for Amazon Music Unlimited, which is Amazon's streaming music version. And it was 4 months for 99 cents. And I said to myself, you know what? Let me do it. That's a great deal. 99 cents. Let me try it out. It occurred to me, I have all of these Amazon Echoes in my house, and the obviously default music service in those is going to be Amazon Music. Now, even if you don't have Amazon Music Unlimited, Amazon gives you, for being a Prime member, about 2 million songs that you can access. Now, you would have to go into the app to figure out what those Prime Music accessible albums and songs are, but that's a pretty big number. Because if you think about Pandora, now I know Pandora has come out with some kind of on-demand service, but the traditional Pandora where you just ask it to play a playlist based on an artist or a song, that's pulling from about 1 million songs at that point. So Amazon, just for being a Prime user and having the Amazon Echo and all that, you're getting 2 million songs by default. And so I always felt, hey, I got my Google Music. Most of the things I would ask Amazon Music to play, especially if it was new music, surprisingly, they would have in those 2 million songs as part of the Amazon Prime. And otherwise, I would just tell it to Bluetooth to my phone, and I would play whatever I wanted to play from Google Music. So it was great. I often use Amazon Echo just as a Bluetooth speaker for podcasts, for all that, because I've always said, for me, my phone is the mothership of all my media. So with podcasts, you listen to them, you stop them, you pick them up when you're washing the dishes, you stop them, you pick them up when you're, brushing your teeth at night, you stop them, you pick them up in the morning when you're working out, you stop it, you pick it up when you're in your car, you stop it. Without that one point of truth, without that one thing that maintains your bookmark in those shows, there's no service that's doing this in the background. Podcast doesn't have this. Now, you could use things like TuneIn or whatever, but I don't even know if they're seamless. So I always use my phone, and then I will just Bluetooth it to whatever the case is, whether it's an Amazon Echo, whether it's my car, whether it's my AirPods, right? I'm just using my phone as the central point of truth for all of my media. And so I felt that was a pretty good bargain. But this deal comes out and it shakes everything I knew about music. All of a sudden, I'm ready to jump to the next girl. I'm ready to fall for whatever enticements are laid out there. And so I just re-upped. 99 cents is great. And then it occurred to me, by being an Amazon Prime user, you get a discount on Amazon Music Unlimited, which is typically $10 a month like the others. But as an Amazon Prime user, it's $7.99. As an Amazon Prime customer, the music service is $7.99. So then it got me really thinking, do I go with girl A or girl B? I'm thinking to myself, well, if it's the same price, I feel like the Amazon Music player is actually a lot nicer looking than everybody, even including the Apple Music interface. I think it's much more beautiful. It's like a full, and it might be the UI, the user interface from the previous iOS release, but it's the best one. It looks beautiful. It's crisp. I find the new Apple Music one to just look too basic and too blocky and like not elegant, which is crazy because it's Apple's product. So I don't know, but I find the Amazon Music's interface to be beautiful. It has this thing called X-rays, and it elegantly shows you the lyrics of the songs you're listening to flowing through. Apple Music does have this, but it's sort of just it just drops all the lyrics there, so you have to like flow through to see them. That's fine. It's like it's picking nits here to talk about that, but the Amazon one is beautiful, and they had this X-ray technology first, so they're doing it really well. So you'll just see the lyrics flowing through. Everything looks elegant. The interface of the music index is a lot more to my liking. It looks more like an iTunes or like a traditional website with like a scrolling carousel of top music. It's more than just blocks and boxy. It's just a nice interface. So it got me thinking. I said, you know what? At $7.99, I have like 4 of these Echoes. So why don't I just commit to the Amazon Music, because it integrates with my life a lot better. I got all these Echoes. I could just tell it to play it. It's the default service. I'll have however many 20, 30 million songs at my fingertips or at the beck and call of my voice, as is the case with the Echoes. And it was silly I had like a sea change in my mind. It's silly to be focused on the Google Music when, yes, I do have one of these Google Homes, so that was cool to be able to integrate with that. But I read that Google Home would be getting Bluetooth anyway, so I could Bluetooth my Amazon to it. Everything works. And so I committed to that. I deleted I canceled my subscription to Google Music. Now, one good thing, I was worried about canceling it because then I was like, oh, if I ever want to go back, it'll now be $10 a month. But when I go there, it does look like that $7.99 maintains even if I re-up at a later time. So that's good. But the Amazon app is really beautiful. The icon's not very nice looking, but everything else about it is awesome. And it's integrated into all these speakers that I use. So I thought, wow, that's really good. Another great thing with these Amazon Echoes is they have an Amazon Music Unlimited deal for one device. So for $4 a month, you can commit Amazon Music to one of the devices. Now, you won't have it on your phone. It'll only be on one of these Echo devices. But I thought, hey, if you have an Echo Tap, which is the rechargeable version of this, where it sits on a pod and it recharges, and then you can take it. It has about an 8 to 10 hour charge, which is really good. And as long as it's hooked to the internet, it even has the ability for you to call and react with it, to speak to it, and it'll listen. I thought that would be a good one to commit that $4 a month to, because it's so portable. You could take it really wherever you want to take it. But yeah, I was like, Amazon Echo, this is beautiful. And then, because now I'm out and about, I'm polygamous with my music service, I said, hey, let me look back at the Apple Music. And here's what happened. Jimmy Iovine, who is he created Beats with Dr. Dre, the headphone company, which then turned into the streaming service company. They created a Beats service, which has since been consumed by Apple Music because, like 3 or 4 years ago, Apple purchased Beats for $3.2 billion. And they took all of that technology. They took Beats into their shop. They brought them under the umbrella of Apple, and it's been a nice synergy. Well, over the last couple months, I've heard Jimmy Iovine, again, this co-creator of Beats. I've heard him on several shows. I've heard him on Bill Simmons. I heard him on Howard Stern, which is where he had a great interview. And hearing his whole story made me go, you know what? I want to jump to Apple Music. Here's why. Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre created this documentary called The Defiant Ones. And it's on HBO. It's a 4-part series. It's shocking when you don't know these guys to say, geez, a 4-part series on HBO? This doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make all the sense in the world that it's a 4-part series. But there's 2 things about this documentary that I think. So the documentary follows both of their careers. And in this documentary, you learn that the music life of Jimmy Iovine goes all the way back to John Lennon. As a young guy in New York, Jimmy Iovine got to be I forget if it's not a producer. It's one of the engineer maybe. He got to work with John Lennon, and John Lennon came to really believe in him and wanted to work with him. They saw the commitment of Jimmy Iovine, because on one day, Jimmy Iovine's boss said to him, hey, you got to come in on Easter. We're gonna do some recording. And I don't remember at this time if he knew it was going to be with John Lennon. I don't think he did know. But he told his mom, I'm going in. And she said, you got to stay for Easter. And he said no. And it ended up being one of those seminal moments, because he went in and there was John Lennon, and the commitment was forged right there. So that was John Lennon. He moved on to Bruce Springsteen. He moved on to what's her name? Bruce Springsteen, Patti Smith. Like he was with Foghat. He went all through this whole career. He became a major producer. He was with U2. Then he became he started his own label, Interscope. He bet on Trent Reznor. He bet on Marilyn Manson. He bet on Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre then bet on all these people. Jimmy Iovine bet on talent and let them thrive, let them do their own thing. He didn't put too much of an iron fist on top of them or telling them what to do, giving them too many notes. He let them just exist in their own world and create great stuff. And so this documentary follows that progression all through his life to what he's become. It follows the progression of Dr. Dre coming up through rap and creating gangster rap, and all of his connections with music, and being this defiant one, and being this amazing producer who will commit himself to the craft. And he was creating sounds that no one had heard before, and he was backing artists. Eminem was a big one who became huge. Pretty much you see in this documentary that everything these guys touch in music wins, and you have a track record going all the way back to pretty much the 70s, right? So it's a really fantastic story, and it got me thinking. Because then I would hear I'd hear Jimmy Iovine go on Howard Stern, on Bill Simmons. And it got me thinking that they did this entire documentary, one, because I think they got so much money from the Beats deal, they wanted the world to know why they were so important. We all know Dr. Dre's importance. We all kind of know Jimmy Iovine, but we didn't know it that well. That this story going all the way back to John Lennon and Bruce Springsteen and U2, and that he was an integral force in all of their development, and how those artists were an integral force in creating who he was. I mean, it shows just this... it shows this gambit of just amazing access to all of these artists. And I realized this is one big commercial or infomercial, but branded. I mean, I guess we'd call it today branded content. And it's so well done that it doesn't feel like one, but it ends up being all one big commercial for Apple Music. All roads lead to Apple Music at the end of this thing. And it hit me, and it worked on me. I ended up resubscribing to Apple Music. So again, I'm still within this Amazon Music 4-month 99 cents, so that's fine. It still works for me. But I ended up subscribing to Apple Music because, one, I can pretend to be a student and get it for $4.99 because I still keep my NYU address. And two, when I heard all these stories about how they created what is Apple Music now, it got me interested in it. It has a human touch that no algorithm can replace. So we hear about all these playlists that are created from algorithms, and maybe there's some human intervention. Well, of course, the algorithms are created by human intervention, but a lot of times it's this human learning that almost takes on a life of its own. And I thought to myself, I don't want to open up Google Music every day. It was this aspect of human curation atop this digital service, which is just as good as all the others. And if you're in the Apple ecosystem, it makes a lot of sense, if you are at all predisposed to like it, to stick with it. Because for me, I can just Bluetooth to any of my speakers, as I said with the other one. And if I pulled out of Amazon Music, I will still have those 2 million songs that are available, which are very good. There's still Pandora on the Echo. There's still plenty of options. I mean, really, all these services are so similar. And it's really what is built atop of it that helps, or what the advantages are. And for me as an Apple user, I got my phone, I got my watch, which, by the way, you can send music to your watch, which is a huge advantage if you're a watch user. So if you go for a run, you can go running with the music on your watch, and you wear your AirPods. You don't need your phone with you. I have the 2nd generation watch, so it has the GPS in it. So we're home free. We're in good shape. I do love, though, how I'm so focused on what I can do without bringing my phone to go on a run, when I really only go on a run outside every 2 weeks or so, if that, maybe 3 weeks. But it's funny what we focus on. But it was this, for me, it was that advantage, and it was the student discount thing that I'm able to use with my NYU address, getting it for $5 a month. And it was in these interviews hearing Jimmy Iovine. And I'm realizing he's getting to me. It's working. He's a master marketing guru genius. Because remember back several years ago with Beats, remember Beats was everything. It was on every athlete. It was in every music video. It was in every commercial. It was in every Groupon. It was everywhere. And it worked by being everywhere, by being, by being in every single sphere of popular culture. It made them very open. Apple could have bought Audio-Technica. Apple could have bought a better headphone and speaker company, but they bought the cool factor. They bought the culture factor of what Beats brought, which was Jimmy Iovine. It was Dr. Dre. It was people who knew music going all the way back to the 70s, spanning every kind of music you can imagine. And that was where they set themselves apart. It was in the marketing. And in life, that's often what it is. It's the marketing. It's how you package the thing. We're all creating essentially the same thing. What we put atop it, what we set it apart with, even if it's in the descriptions, even if it's in our marketing, that can often be what reigns. Everybody had Beats when everybody else was wearing it, when the popular people were wearing it, when sports personalities, when actors, when musicians, when rappers, when they were wearing them, we were wearing them. And there was even a part in the Defiant Ones documentary where Eminem's like, Jimmy, enough with the Beats, enough wearing them in the videos, but they still got them on there. And that's what set it apart. And I'm realizing with Apple Music, that's what they're trying to do. So Apple Music just got to about 27, 28 subscribers. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. I know it's Apple. I know they always talk about they have these 800 million zombie credit cards on file. And I think they believed that they would overwhelm the market a lot more. I think they thought with these credit cards on file that they'd probably get up to 100 million subscribers pretty easily, because if you remember when Apple Music came out, it had a free 3-month trial. 3 months is a lot for something to be free, and that was a big sticking point with Apple. Actually, initially it was something Taylor Swift fought against, because I think Apple was expecting the artists to go along with the free thing and to not really be paid a good rate on those free subscriptions. And the artists fought back and they won. Taylor Swift won because Apple ended up paying the artists even through the free 3-month trial. Apple's got enough money to do that. And that ended up being a good conversation. It ended up being a good decision, because really their position, how much money they have just sitting around, they can cover that if they really want the thing to thrive. But I think they felt they'd have 100 million users, and they haven't. They have grown slowly but surely, though. 28 million users is a lot. Now, Spotify's double that. They're at about 60 million paid users. Now, the issue for Apple is they don't have a free version. Spotify is a free version where you can pretty much get the full features of the paid version, but on a phone you can just press shuffle in the free version. So you can go to any artist, any album, but you can only press shuffle. You can't choose what you want to listen to. That's a really smart little freemium strategy, because when you start shuffling, you're going to want the real thing, and then you might just re-up to that $10. Now on a tablet, I still think it's the case. You get the full features of the service, but just with ads. And I think even with the mobile free one, you get ads as well. So they're covering it off with ads in the free thing. Now, you don't make a ton of money from ads. They need to get subscribers, but they've gotten them to the tune of 60 million users. Really good. Apple doesn't have a free version of their Apple Music. You still can listen to Beats One to the live radio stations. So this for me is what is setting Apple apart. Apple Music. It's where I've landed back on Apple Music. Now, who knows if I'll stay here, but it's this idea that it started to hit me. Who cares about having your whole music library on, available on your phone? How often do I really go to my library and hit shuffle? I really wasn't hitting it a lot. And then I was like, you know what? It's a cool feature. I convinced myself it was so important to me, but it's okay. You can kind of rebuild your library from what's there in these services without having to bring your library with you. You just go through and you re-add albums you really like. You do that. It's a good thing to do. It's fine. It's not that hard. It might take you half a day to get yourself back to even with what you had with your whole library. But it was what the marketing that was atop Apple Music that set it apart from the normal jukebox in the sky on-demand aspect of all these services. It was this human curation. It was this idea that Jimmy Iovine, who goes back to the late 60s, early 70s, that it was Dr. Dre, who goes back to the 80s and 90s, that these two men have built this life of understanding what music is and understanding who the tastemakers are and the hit makers are, and understanding who the important people are and betting on them before anybody had any idea they would be something. It's bringing that whole history with them, that whole shared identity and knowledge into this service, and then it's putting human curators atop it. So if you open your Apple Music, and this is what has happened to me. With Apple Music, I've noticed I want to open it every day because I want to see the For You section and I want to see what they're saying is available for me today. So it might be early 2000s emo, late 90s hardcore. To me, that's amazing that you have these playlists and then all of a sudden you start listening to that old playlist and you forget about 2 or 3 bands that you used to love and you re-add them. It's constantly keeping you in discovery mode, and there are humans curating atop that are bringing it to your eyes, that are bringing it up to the surface again for you to go with. It learns based on what you're listening to, who you might want to listen to next, builds playlists for you, builds albums you've been listening to recently, throws out random albums that you might like based on something you like. Now, I know they all do it, but Apple's doing it real well, and they're bringing humans to the fore. The music, the live music service, the live radio service on Apple is to me something amazing. Now, granted, you can get this aspect of it without having to subscribe to Apple Music, but there's something to me about jumping between apps that feels inefficient. So I went in. I got my $5 a month from the student discount. I got my lesson from Jimmy Iovine. I got through the whole idea of building my library back up in there. And I have this app that I want to open every day. And I'll tell you, the Beats One Radio, the Zane Lowe, there's a few people that are big DJs on this. It's fascinating to me. It is a worldwide radio station on the internet with some of the world's best DJs. And I love the little interviews. I love the fact that there is a human at the tills that is discussing with you who the big artists are right now, bringing them in for interviews, whether it's in studio with the great sound or whether it's by the phone, playing and replaying some new hits, trying to be tastemakers, trying to tell you who the next big album is. It brings back that old aspect where it feels current. It feels like you're in the room and special, and that somebody is actually there that's beyond just an algorithm. It's something that's just really, really, really great. And so I've recommitted to Apple Music for this, and I'm realizing it's because of this great infomercial that was the Defiant Ones. And it was Jimmy Iovine telling his story to some of the people I listen to all the time, some of the spoken word, whether it's Howard Stern, whether it's Bill Simmons, and it's brought it back, and it works. Apple Music is his new Beats. This is the thing that they're trying to push. They're up to 28 million. Spotify's up to 60 million. And I think Apple's going to continue to do this. Now, the interface has to get nicer. It feels boxy to me. It feels it feels like simple and in your face and childish. Like, I'd like it to be a little more elegant. I'd like a little more stylized. I'd like things not to be so big and in your face. I would like some of the aspects that actually iTunes has, to be honest. I know a lot of people don't like iTunes as much, how the interface can be. They say it can be balky, slow. I mean, get out of the slow stuff, but I sort of do. Amazon Music does that. They have a nice little index interface. I think that's important. And Apple does it well with podcasts. I mean, I will often go to the Apple's podcast index, the store, just to see what new podcasts might have came out, which ones are trending, all that. I like having that central point. The Apple app has a bunch of different menu items that you have to hit to get to certain places, which can be kind of annoying. But all in all, it's feeling like you're present. It's feeling like there's humans there, tying in with the algorithms, tying in with the affinity of what you've liked in the past. That's important to me. And having these two men, this Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, kind of being at the head of the ship on it, made it something that I re-opted into. The watch is big. I think all that's great. The other thing I've realized from listening to Apple Music again, listening to what the top hits are, Justin Bieber is magic. This 23-year-old who's got a net worth of about $200 million from what I read, he's like the LeBron James of music, or maybe he's like Robert Horry. Everything he touches is gold, whether on his own or frequently now in collaboration. When you think about his catalog, he's touching everything. He's in Despacito, this song that has these Caribbean influences, these reggae influences, it's one of the most catchy songs you've ever heard, and it surpassed Gangnam Style as the most streamed song ever. He's on that, and he's a big part of that. He's on the I'm the One song from DJ Khaled, featuring all these people. And often these collaborations are everything. You bring together the top people, and it's almost like they're all recording their own albums, and then they just bring on the other people onto their album. They go onto the other people's album. But everything he touches, he's on. And he's got to be getting coin from this. He's making money from this. And I know we want to look back and say, oh, Matt, what's wrong with you? You like Justin Bieber, the Beliebers, all this? I'll tell you, the guy's got a sordid past. He's got a spotty history. He's done some things. Look, he's a young kid. He's still only 23. The things I think back to the Miami thing where he's driving these like sports cars, 120 miles an hour down the Miami highways, all this stuff. From what I remember, I think that's what it was. He was always getting in trouble with that. I think he just got into a car accident. He hit somebody. He's got a lot of issues. But when you get that guy in the studio, he has the most angelic voice. He works in anything. I almost have thought I'd love to hear him in like an emo band or a rock band or like Fall Out Boy or something like that. I just would love to hear him in these different systems, these different songs, almost like, again, like Robert Horry, but he's bigger than Robert Horry. Like Robert Horry would always hit the big shot. He'd be on every championship team. He got so many titles. But this guy moves music markets at a time when nobody's doing that. Now, again, he just canceled his tour. He has his issues. But my God, when you get that guy on a song, whether he's picking the right places or whether he's making the right places, whether he's picking the culture or making the culture, it is amazing. And I've been confounded by listening to his catalog. when you go into these things, the essentials, right? Like the top hits that Justin Bieber's been on, it's fascinating. He's on everything. He's on the Despacito. He's on The One. His own music is good, whether you're thinking of What Do You Mean or Sorry. He was on those, what was that other song with like Skrillex and Diplo? He goes between rap. He goes between influences. But he stands out with his voice. It's angelic. And it's Where Are You Now with the Skrillex and Diplo. Sorry. Again, I said, What Do You Mean? I mean, it's amazing. Now, I'm not going back to the Belieber days. But hey, give the guy credit. He did really well building up these Beliebers, but he's kind of pivoted into this new career where he can just collaborate into anything and just make hit after hit after hit. And I just give it so much credit, and I hate to say it because I almost feel the history of who Justin Bieber was as almost like a Disney character, a Nick at Night character, and he's just turned into an amazing musical specimen. I mean, it's pretty fantastic. And it was this whole introduction back to Apple Music that got me back on the track for this. I can't stop listening to this stuff when you hear it, and I'm amazed at what he's able to put out and what he's able to touch. And look, maybe he's got good handlers, he's got good people putting him in these spots to thrive. But isn't that life, being put in the right spot and hitting it out of the park? I mean, sometimes you got to be born at third base. I don't know that he was. I'm not amazingly into his history. I know he was like from Canada, and somehow he was picked out of a crowd from nothing to everything. And think about the ascent in his life, and it makes a lot of sense why he is where he is. It's very much like an athlete who's picked early to be great and sort of stays frozen in time as the 14-year-old. That from that point forward, everything was catered to him. Everything was focused on him. He never had to feel the downsides of life, really. Everybody always was on the take with them. Everybody's always telling them how great they are. And then they're spit out on the other end after a great NBA career without that, because their use has been used up. So, yeah. I think it's a pretty fascinating time for music, for streaming television, for movies, everything. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So why don't we call it there? And we'll pick it up later on the other end of vacation, potentially for me. I hope everybody enjoys this early August. I know it always feels like summer's getting away from us. It is not. There's plenty of time left, and there's great stuff coming. There always is. So thanks, folks. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.